Welcome back. Put your shoulder pads on, okay? Put the uniform on. We're going to guard your savings. This is the Guard Your Savings podcast with Dolph Janis, founder, insurance professional, income strategist at Clear Income Strategies Group out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, and I would love for anybody listening, or if you know someone that needs to know about this, share the link with them to go to guardyoursavings.com. And if you got people in your circle that need to get beefed up on their retirement plans, Dolph and the team are the ones that you need to be in touch with. You can dial them up 704-919-0149. Dolph, we're recording on a Friday, so let me just say to you, happy Friday, sir. How you doing?
Any better I be you. It's just, every day is Friday.
Amen to that. It is a great, every day is a new day of creation. You and I, both worship the Almighty. We love that. On the last episode, we talked about the difference between just being told to do something and then thinking on your own and doing it yourself. And it reminded me, Dolph, of one of my favorite jokes of all time. And it was a long and winding, minutes-long joke that Norm Macdonald told in the late 90s, early 2000s on the Conan O'Brien show. And basically, here's the end of it. And it just, that mantra of either being told or doing something out of reflex versus thinking on your own reminded me of the late Norm Macdonald. So here we go.
He says, Doc, sometimes I feel like a spider, even though I'm a moth, just barely hanging on to my web with an everlasting fire underneath me. I'm not feeling good. And so the doctor says, Moth, man, you're troubled, but you should be seeing a psychiatrist. Why on earth did you come here? And then the moth said, because the light was on.
And he went for minutes setting up this joke of him explaining all these different problems, a moth in a podiatrist office. Why are you here? Because the light was on. That's just classic Norm Macdonald, the anti-joke, if you will. Thought we'd have a little laugh getting into this. And today we're going to talk about portfolio diversification. And can you and I both agree, it's sort of like Jimmy Carter's life before and after the presidency. Shaquille O'Neal had a Hall of Fame caliber, amazing career. But Shaquille O'Neal, what he's done afterward, he is forward-facing in so many commercials, so many industries. He's owning Papa John's. He's owning Krispy Kremes. And I think there was a light that came on for him, too. So we're going to talk about portfolios, but listen to what he said about some financial advice he got early on.
I used to see this rich guy, really rich, older, 80, old Rolls Royce. And I asked him, I said, how? And he taught me a word I never heard. Yeah, Shaq, you need to invest in an annuity. And I never knew what it was. And I looked it up because I was making so much money from commercials and all, I didn't know what to do with it. And he's like, yeah, all this money you're making, if you put it away, you can invest it and you can start collecting at 50, 60, and 70. So that was my greatest investment.
And we know you specialize in those, Dolph. We're going to talk about multiple ways to diversify your profile, but diversify one's portfolio. What do you think there about the idea of starting early and making sure you got different things in place?
It's never too early to start. I always think about Shaq when he was in Police Academy for that one movie. That was hilarious, trying to think him as a police officer. But with the annuities they have a bad rap out there. And I had actually, I talk about this with clients. And I think one of the questions that I always get is, Dolph, why in the heck would I put money in an annuity? I've heard nothing but bad things about them. And I'm like, okay, what are some bad things you want to hear? I throw the question right back at them. What are some of the bad things they have out there? And when they start explaining it, I said, oh, you're describing a thing called a variable annuity. And I said, variable annuities are not insured. They're not guaranteed. They're not protected. They have some guaranteed income, but they don't, for the growth and all your money inside of it, the fees and stuff. I wouldn't offer one of those to an Ohio State fan. That is it's one of the worst things out there. In my opinion, you're better off just throwing your money in a dartboard and seeing what you have.
If y'all forgotten, Dolph is a Michigan fan, by the way. Continue.
Yes, okay. Which we have beaten them 4 years in a row, by the way, even though
That's true.
But anyhow, when you're thinking about it, then it's like, okay, well, this thing didn't do well. You can't predict the future. Nobody can. But when you go backwards in your portfolio, like we did in 2000 and 2001 during that time frame, 2008 and a little bit in 2020, when you have those declines, and then you have to fight your way to get back to even. It's like, okay, yes, like someone, hey, the market was up 24% last year. I said, well, last year was down 18%. It's like, okay, so you're back to even now. So you just lost 2 years of your portfolio. And there's a lot of things out there called a captive or an independent. Doug, are you familiar with the difference between a captive and an independent?
I know the difference in the words, but I don't know in financial parlance.
Okay, that's why I asked the question. There's a lot of people to understand. A captive agent works for a certain company, and they're captive to offer just what they have. If you think like you go to Burger King, you can get the Whopper. You can't get the Big Mac at Burger King.
Right.
For instance. As an independent, it's like going to a food court. They have all the different foods out there, and you get to choose which one you want. Me being independent for the last 21 years, I have access to over 40 different companies, over 285 different strategies, different that and the other, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Diversifying your portfolio with an annuity is like, are you looking, the number one word about annuity should be called protection. That's what you're doing, is you're protecting yourself from the downside. And so when someone says, I hate an annuity, like, well, first of all, Social Security is basically an annuity. You put money in your whole life and they're going to pay you back. That's what an annuity is. I mean, that's one portion of an annuity. Not every annuity is like that. But when someone says, I hate an annuity and stuff, I said, oh, so you don't like protecting your money? Well, of course I like to protect my money. I said, well, then why wouldn't you like an annuity? Well, because the fees are high. I said, there's, like I said, over 90% of them have no fees. The only time you get a fee is if you add something, an attachment to it. Like you go buy a refrigerator, you buy the warranty. You've added extra money to it. It's going to add extra value to it. It means that's where if there's going to be a fee, make sure you're getting something for the fee, whether it's an income fee, a death benefit rider fee, liquidity options, medical coverage, or whatever. It's okay there. So I'm still talking to the person. It's like, okay, so you like protection and you don't want fees. Okay, those are taken out. What else don't you like about an annuity? Well, you don't get all the upside. I said, but can you lose money? Well, no. I said, okay, so if you go up 10% and down 10%, are you even? And they're like, most people, believe it or not, say, well, yeah, you're even. I said, no, you're still down 1%. So when you diversify your portfolio, it's like the first question you ask, and if you're considering an annuity, whether a fixed annuity or a fixed index annuity, whether an income annuity or so forth, not any of these fancy hybrids or continuation annuities. No, there's a fixed annuity, fixed index annuity, income annuity. That's it. And there's no fancy words out there that these people try to play games with and try to sucker it into you like this. Hey, the touchdown annuity is unbelievable here. Call us for a free consultation. I mean, anyhow, what are you looking for to do? The number one thing is, if you look at your portfolio, let's say, Doug, I'm going to talk to you like you're a client right now. Mm-hmm. Let's say you have $600,000 saved. You're 58 years old. You're getting ready. You want to retire at 65 years old. I ask you a question. Out of that $600,000, how much do you want to protect? And that's where we start the conversation.
Yeah.
Then once we start getting that, I say, okay, let's layer. But how much income do you need at 65 years old? So we start building that's where we start educating and building. It's like, okay, I don't care how much money you have, but let's hit that income goal first. So when you retire, you'll have money to last you the rest of your life. You put that money into the market in 6 years from now, or 7 years in your case, 7 years from now, you give a broker at one of these big wig companies $700,000. Mm-hmm. Can they guarantee you what that money is going to return you in 7 years?
I would reckon not.
No, because it's in the market. It's a towing cost. And so when you're talking to yourself, you say, let me take out $300,000 of that $600,000. Let me take half of it and protect it. So I know what this half is going to be at least in 7 years from now, whether it's for income growth or whatever, because you have that guaranteed label on the back. But the other $300,000 in 7 years from now, it could be worth $1 million. It could be worth $700,000. It could be worth still the same amount at $300,000, or it could be at zero.
Yeah.
I look at the client in the face or the prospect. I'll say, okay, which value would you want the most? And every one of them always says, oh, I want the $1 million. I said, but if it's at zero, how are you going to handle that? If you've lost all that money, so now you've worked all your life and you lost that money, and they say, hey, how much money did you earn a year? And I said, I was working $60,000 a year. They said, okay, how would you feel if you worked between the ages of 55 or 50 and 55 and you didn't get paid? And then what do you mean? I said, well, if you lost $300,000 and you worked $60,000 a year, you just worked 5 years of your life for free.
Oof.
And then people don't, and then that's when the light bulb starts going on. I said, well, what is that? Then you start talking about the different types of annuity. This goes back to the captive versus the independent. The captive is going to have one or two companies, and that's all he's going to offer. And it might fit your portfolio, but it might not fit your portfolio because there's other options out there. And I would say after doing second opinion reviews and stuff, people are like, well, why did I get that? Why did I get something I can't touch for 15 years when I need to start taking the money out in 3? I said, because you believe the spiel and you didn't educate yourself. And that's, again, we went back to the last show, is thinking about it, educating yourself before reacting and acting to it. And that's the important of diversification is you got to layer money to live on today. You got to have money to have for tomorrow. You got to have income to take care of the rest of your life. And then you have to have that special bucket in the end called the never money. The money we never plan on touching, never going to be there. But it's nice knowing it's there in case the roof breaks, the refrigerator breaks, and it doesn't want to change your lifestyle. you take it from the never bucket. And that's the diversification of a portfolio.
That's what I was going to ask. So, and at first I was thinking, okay, well, the different types of investments or different types of annuities, but then there's basically risk levels and how accessible is it, and then money that you need to pretend doesn't exist for that, emergency fund. So that really is very interesting there. And, Dolph, you wrote a book, The Crossing the Bridge to Retirement, and I'm sure one of the parts of crossing that bridge is someone like you educating people just on the sheer existence of what those different buckets are.
Yes, it is. I mean, you got today, tomorrow, and never. I mean, have those buckets. You got your taxable bucket, your tax-free bucket, and this is when we start getting into taxes, which is going to be a show coming on soon, is when I don't how much money you have. Well, guess what? How much money is that taxable? I mean, I was out in Mount Pleasant last week. Unbelievable couple out there, and so nice. And they're taking income. Said, Dolph, we're bringing in too much money. We don't need this money. We're not spending enough of it to keep it, so we need to change it because it's killing us on our taxes. You were 100% right last year when you told us, hey, if you start taking this much out, unless you're going to spend it, this is what you're going to be paying in taxes. And so we readjusted it, and boom, they're like, okay, great. So we just lowered their tax structure a bunch, and that's what it is. They're going to live the way the life they want to, but they're going to start pulling the money out in different formats. I say, hey, look, Ed, you got this Roth that's worth X amount of dollars. Why are you pulling money out of a taxable account when you could be pulling money out of the Roth account? And his response was like, well, because I don't want my kids to have to pay taxes on it. And I said, well, that's when you open like a little insurance policy and the money that it's going to pay. Hey, open a whole life policy or a term life policy for $20,000.
Yeah,
give them $200,000. That will pay the taxes on your whole estate. And he's like, oh, never thought of that.
wow.
So then you start yanking the money out of the Roth, and guess what? Him and his wife are not paying taxes now because that money is tax free. So that's the tax free part of your portfolio. This is the whole expansion about diversification. Do you have a tax free strategy in your portfolio? Yes or no? Have you ever done a Roth conversion? Yes or no? These are things to think about when it's going forward.
So if someone's hearing this, look, the right there, what you just explained was a clear income strategy. Fancy that's the name of your company there, Dolph. And so if somebody's hearing this right now and they're like, man, I need to have this conversation. I've been wasted time, or I didn't even know there were different buckets. I'm just using my 401k and Social Security for retirement, whatever it is. What do you suggest they do?
Pick up a phone, go to the internet, go on the line, go to our website, Guard Your Savings or clearincomeforlife.com. Research our website, see who we're all about for the last bunch of years, the 21 years, see all the accolades that we have. Ask for a copy of my book. It's complimentary. Look at the resources that we have. Click on the Calendly button. My whole calendar pops open, and we're always available 24/7. Certain days, obviously, if I'm not here, obviously they're blocked off, or if I have appointments, so we try to get back to you within a very reasonable time.
Yeah,
and educate yourself. I mean, having a second opinion, and it doesn't hurt. I mean, I might not be a fit. It wouldn't be the first person that walked in my office. We spent an hour and a half talking about this, that, and the other different strategies. We shake hands. We were not a fit. It's not going to break my heart. But if you walk out of that meeting doing that and you learn something from me, then I've done my job. And I don't charge any fees for my consultation. I've waived all the fees.
I love that. And I love that you said, you brought it up last episode, you may have somebody that you trust right now, but it doesn't hurt if something just, you've heard some information here. Someone sent you the link to guardyoursavings.com and you heard this last episode and you're like, I need to talk to someone. It doesn't hurt to have a second opinion.
No,
get that second opinion or third or whichever. And when they do talk to you, Dolph, I mean, I like what you say too. You work on protection, not promises.
Yep. We work on guarantees, not promises. It's like what you want to protect. And someone would say, hey, I've been with this advisor now for 35 years and I don't want to hurt his feelings or I don't want to ruin the relationship or whatever. And I'm like, well, he's made a lot of money on you in 35 years. I can tell you that, first of all, if he's a fee-based person.
Yeah.
The second one is, how's he done for you lately? Is he getting to your goals?
Yeah.
Yes or no? 100%. I mean, 99% of my clients have an AUM money manager. 1% doesn't. That's me because I do everything myself. Every single one of my clients has another advisor or an AUM person. I work on the guaranteed side and the safety and protection. They work on the risk side.
That's a good point. Yes, having different advisors. That part of your diversification in your retirement there is having different advisors that specialize in different things. Well, Dolph, thank you so much for spending the time today. Folks, again, you can go to guardyoursavings.com. That's basically the podcast landing page, if you will, that is on clearincomeforlife.com, which is Clear Income Strategies Group's battery of information. Not only can you set up appointments there, learn more about them, but they also have a lot of educational information there for your retirement. And you can dial Dolph's team up Dolph himself up even, 704-919-0149. Appreciate you sharing all this with us, Dolph, and I'm sure some people that are trying to get this year started right are going to need to dig in now.
Always available, always here to teach, always here to educate. So thanks for listening. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do so, and God bless.
And we also thank our producer, Alfred Romero, for making sure and getting this published, polished, and put out to show. And again, go to guardyoursavings.com to find the past episodes of this. If you know someone in your circle that needs to hear what Dolph has to say, don't hesitate to send them the link there, and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, whether you're in Apple or Spotify, as you know these episodes come out every 2 weeks. I'm Doug Turnbull. He's Dolph Janis. Thank you all for listening to the Guard Your Savings podcast.
By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Randall Janis, North Carolina Insurance License number 8483456. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Dolph Janis is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Dolph Janis is licensed in your state, please call 704-919-0149.